Yes.
Yeah.
And you should get it in three, two, one, and you should see your.
And there it is. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I got the URL. Okay. Good to go.
Okay. Hold.
Hang on a second, Ruth.
Okay.
Didn't like my frame at all. So bear with me 1 second and we'll get it right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Greg. I didn't even look at it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't either, honestly. And then I
Okay.
did.
It didn't start yet.
No. Move it to your left a little bit, Greg. I mean,
To
you're
my
right.
left?
You're right. I'm sorry. Right up. Okay. Right there. Nope. Move a little bit to the
That's
left.
good like that?
A little bit to the left. A little to the left. Right there.
Okay.
And yeah, there you go.
You got it.
And can you bring the camera up a little bit? Greg?
Bring the camera up.
Yeah. Okay, move to the left a little bit. There we go.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.
You're very welcome. Okay.
This is better. Thank you, Robin. Okay.
And take it, Greg.
Welcome, everyone. It is 6:10 on Monday night. You're listening to the 225th installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour right here on www.hamiltonradio.net Channel 2. I'm your host, Greg Rapport. If you're new to the show, I'm the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels. We provide one-to-one mentors to vulnerable youth for the purpose of coordinating the care and services that they need to thrive. We try to help young people avoid some of the horrible pitfalls that they're likely to face when they don't have a proper safety net. And this program is brought to you every week at the same time, courtesy of Doc G, William Saunders, Ruben Rodriguez, and all the fine people here at Hamilton Radio who allow us to use this airtime. Ruben is on the big board tonight. Robin is producing. So good to have both of you with me, and so good to have you listening from your computers, in your cars, in New Jersey, around the country and beyond. Now, please take a moment. If you're looking at us on Facebook or YouTube, hit all the buttons. We need you to like and subscribe and share, because if you think about it, this is relevant to everyone in your world. There is no geographic region that isn't touched by the topics that we discuss on this show. And this hits right at home where you live, and it needs to be shared. So please do it. Share what you're hearing right now. If you want to know about child welfare and community betterment, this is where you come to get the whole truth. And guess what? This is not going to be on the nightly news tonight. You are not going to hear this, probably not even on NPR. This is the only place you can come to get it. And it's important. I have two fabulous guests tonight. We are going to be talking about bullying for the whole show tonight. And we have one person who is an expert on bullying, and we have another person who has grown up to become a life coach who was a victim of bullying earlier in their life. And so you're going to get a full picture tonight of what that is, of what it means, of what it feels like. Don't go away and share it. Share it with your social media network, okay? And before we start, I do want to mention the Bridges to Employment program. This is an education/career program for youth who are in foster care or who have aged out between the ages of 16 and 24. Do you know, if you're out of school for a while, no matter how old you are, if you're out of school for like 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, it's really hard to go back. It doesn't matter like why you left. It doesn't matter how easy going back can be made for you. You know, like, is the school around the corner? Could you fall out of bed and into class? None of that stuff matters. If you haven't been in school since you were, say, 14, and now all of a sudden you're 19 and you're thinking about school again, it is really, really difficult to find that groove and to allow yourself to relax and learn. And we're hoping that if you need that, if you haven't graduated high school and you need to do that, you need to get through high school, or you need brush-up skills. Sometimes people are graduates, but they don't qualify to get into the military when they get the placement test. So if you need brush-up skills, you can come to us as well. And the only other thing I can ask you to do is tell your friends, spread the word, because school has never been like this. And you know, our goal is not just to get you through school. Our goal is to get you through school so you can get into either a college program or a vocational career training program where you can make real money. The sad part here is that we actually promote traditional school. We're not trying to compete with your regular high school. We don't have a football team or cheerleaders, or chess club or any of that stuff. We don't have any of it. So if you can stay in high school and get it done, do. But if you are one of are you ready for this, 5 million students across the country who, for whatever reason, can't complete high school, and you were ever in the foster care system, I hope you'll call us at the Bridges to Employment program. Okay, that's all we're talking about school tonight. One other housekeeping thing before we move on is that you're all aware that May is Foster Care Awareness Month. And this is our last show in May. Next week, it's Memorial Day, so we're not going to be doing a show. This is our last show in May. And what we're talking about here, I think generally Foster Care Awareness Month, that's sort of sponsored by the Children's Bureau. They're focusing on mental health, which is a good thing to focus on. There's certainly nothing wrong with focusing on mental health. But what I'm focusing on right here in the Age Out Angels radio hour for this month is adopting an older child. I want you to think seriously about adopting an older child. And by older child, I don't mean 9. I'm talking about 16, 17, 18, 21, 22, 24. And every time I bring that up in a group of people, someone I can count on will stand up and say, well, come on, man, the kid is 21 years old. They're already in college. What do they need you for at that point? I mean, they made it that far without a family. What do they need you for? And the answer to that is just so obvious, isn't it? There's never a bad time to become part of a family. And if you've never had that for your whole life, it's a message from heaven when it comes to you. I'll tell you what, a lot of youth in foster care reject the idea of being adopted at a younger age. And the reason that they reject that is because their biological parents may still be alive. And they're holding out hope that one day they will be reunited with their biological families, maybe even siblings involved as well. And that they'll be that one happy family that they always hoped that they could be, but never could quite get it right. And they hold that dream out. And so they end up going deeper and deeper into the foster care system. And then one day, of course, that person passes away. And when that happens, they feel alone in a different way, because before they had no one they could rely on, but now they actually feel alone. They feel that purity of there being no one else. So adopting a 21-year-old, or a 19-year-old or something like that is the most beautiful thing in the world. And believe me, you'll see plenty of milestones. You'll watch them fall in love. You'll dance at their wedding. It'll be great. But you won't have to deal with a lot of the craziness of the teenage years. So you got that going for you. So that's what I want you to remember about Foster Care Awareness Month for 2023. And I think we'll keep this campaign going throughout the whole year, because there's never a bad time to take a person who is coming to the top end of adolescence and give them a shot at happiness. Is there? I hope not. All right. My guests tonight are Lynne Azarchi, who is no stranger to our show. She is the executive director of Kidsbridge Tolerance Center, and she is author of the book The Empathy Advantage, and a 2-decade professional in the area of trying to get people to be nice to each other. Lynne, welcome back to the show.
It's a pleasure to be back. Just a shout out to you for what you do. It's so important. I love you're creating empathy for these kids who, are done with high school, and you still need somebody to love you, right? Isn't that what it's all about? So nice bridge to empathy. Thank you for that.
It really comes from there, you bet. And of course, my other guest is, in the interest of full disclosure, someone I've known since he was a baby. And he's now a grown man, and is going to tell us about a part of his childhood that even though I was present for part of, I had no idea was actually going on. And AJ, welcome to the Age Out Angels Radio Hour.
Thank you so much, Greg. And for those that don't know me, my name is AJ Sababu. I'm a certified life coach who specializes in resilient confidence and helping clients and people around build more confidence, transform insecurities, and rewrite subconscious beliefs on bullying. So nice to meet you.
And that's what you are now. But once upon a time, you were just a little guy in elementary school.
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
Well, no, actually, I want Lynn, who's the professional here, not me, to talk to you. But let me just get it started. There must have been a day in elementary school when you started to feel a weird kind of pressure coming down on you, right?
Yep. It was in first grade.
You remember the day?
I remember it was at recess. I remember that. And I think ever since that day, it was like a never ending storm. I felt like it just kept going and going and going. And so that's kind of where it all started. And, thankfully I was able, to get through it, but it took me years from about age 5, 6 to about 22, 23.
Lynn, what do you think when you hear that?
I'm shaking my head because nobody should have to go through this. And there are millions of kids that go through this. I mean, bullying and bias starts at age 3. And it's worse in middle school, but I just feeling empathetic, feel really bad for AJ to go through these sustained years and picked on for, a difference, whatever it is, it really doesn't matter. But, we come from, I just thought at your age, AJ, it would be better that, you were failed by many systems. You were failed by your school system, by the teachers that you had this, by, and I know we don't, I wouldn't have told my parents, so I guess you didn't tell your parents, but there are so many intervals at which to help a child today, and you were very, very failed. What's silver lining is that you want to be a life coach and help others and not have them live through what you lived through. But still there's a pain. I mean, I was teased when I was little, and I talked to adults and kids about this, and that pain, you deal with it because you have to, but in a way it never goes away.
Yeah, it doesn't. It definitely takes a really long time. Like I said, I'm just really thankful that I was able to really overcome this and get through it. And now I feel like it's just like my calling, my duty to give back and help students and help people, realize that, you can get through this. It doesn't have to take this long. And that there are people that really do care and want to help you. So.
Absolutely. But here you can, help other people. Epiphanies in our youth center where kids figure out that on both sides, like, I didn't realize I was a bully. Like you hear the words bully, bully, bully. I didn't realize a bully. And that kid has that epiphany that they're going to leave the center and be kinder. Or it used to be a victim. Now we call it a target. That they realize that millions of kids are bullied and there's nothing wrong with them. Like millions of kids suffer this. So it makes them feel like they're not alone. So maybe, we always start with stories. If you could just first grade, if you could just maybe a first, a third, a fifth grade, a middle school, a high school, like what, a couple of stories so listeners know what you went through. Without causing trauma,
No,
but
I
think people have to understand. I mean, here this is a sustained bullying because kids identified you, and kids are bullies are smart and they are looking for vulnerable kids. But I do want to just share with the listeners that today we don't name a child a bully. It's a child who bullies, a child who is mean, and it's not a victim. It's a child who is targeted. And then later on, we're going to talk about bystanders and upstanders because we're talking about systems. The system is broken. But let's start with you and let's be. I wrote a book on empathy. Let's walk in your shoes and feel your pain briefly, because that is the catharsis upon which we're going to say, okay, I'm going to do something about this, right?
Yep. All right. So let's start first grade. I remember I was at recess, and I remember one of the students came up to me. He was like, "Hey, like, you have a really big head, and a lot of." And he would say, "You have a really big head," and he kind of said it in front of a lot of people, and so like people were just like making fun of me and laughing at me, and I was upset at the time, and then I was realizing that this was kind of happening like on a every day, or like it was happening very frequently throughout, first grade. And then like I noticed it was from them and like older kids. So like older, like second, third, fourth elementary school, I was kind of getting the same treatment, whether it was at recess, on the school bus. And so like that's when I really was starting to like really, really get affected by it. And then
Did you
when I
notice
was
other kids being bullied or no? And
not
teased,
not
name
not as
called?
much, not as much. I also maybe didn't at that moment realize. I think it was I didn't wasn't really paying attention. I think it was just like I was just really just focusing on me.
Mhm.
And then the second biggest was, I would say, let's skip a couple years. I want to say like middle school. So I would go to like a middle school camp, and I remember the buses would, they would pick us up. My mom would drop us off. I remember like I would get on the bus, and like I would get on the bus, and maybe the bus was full, and like, kids would be laughing at me, they'd be pointing at me. And so like I remember it was really bad at one point. I told my mom, like, I need to get there early so I get on the bus first and sit in the front so I don't kind of have to worry about that kind of stuff. And so that's, and it was to a point I was just like, okay. It was really uncomfortable.
Did your
I
mom
think,
do that for you? Get you there
yeah,
early?
yeah, she took
Okay.
me early. And she would, get me on the bus, and like it was just like I would have a fear at camp. Like I just had to get on the bus. So like say like the bus up at 3 and swimming was last, I would like throw on my clothes, like I'd be wet and just get on the bus because like I didn't want, kids making fun of me and all
This is
that.
so sad.
Yeah,
Really
going through
sad.
that. And so that was really tough. And then let me see, middle school. Middle school was tough, like you said. I think middle school was
Yeah,
really,
statistics are it's the worst.
it's rough. I mean, like, whew, it was rough.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to a Christian school. It was called Faith Christian Academy. It's actually in Hamilton, on Cruiser Road. And so I went there kindergarten through 7th. But these summer camps were like not, when this was during the summers, this was not in Hamilton. Another instance through middle school was there was like it was for inner city Trenton schools. It was called SCORE. It was something with like, you would take classes, enhanced education on like Saturday mornings, and the same thing. I would walk in, and granted, I didn't know any of these kids because I wasn't going to the schools. They would pick at me, they make fun of me, they look at my shoes and all that. So again, it was just like I had to get there early.
Where
To
are
a
the adults? Where are the adults when this is going
Yeah,
on?
it was tough. And then, there's a thing where, um, once you get to middle school, it's like you don't want to be a tattletale or a snitch, like,
Mm,
oh, you don't, so you just kind of don't say anything. So you just kind of just have to just take it all in and just, just
yeah.
push through. And so I remember during these Saturday morning classes, like, I would, relatively do well in the work and stuff. And like they would make fun of me being smart, like, yeah, you're too smart. Like, why do you know all this? And I'm just kind of like,
That still
I don't,
happens today, sadly.
yeah, I don't know. And so it was just bad. Like I could wear, it didn't matter what I wore. Like I try to wear nice stuff, like decent stuff. It was the inevitable. I'm like, all right. So like I remember that was bad. And so like I would like beg my mom, like, please don't let me go. Like I don't want to go, but she would send me anyway, which is fine. And so that was kind of middle school. And then let's fast forward to high school. I went to like a private school, 9th and 10th grade. So then I transitioned to Lawrence High School in 11th grade. So that was like a woof. Like it was like I went to a high school, and I remember I walked in my first class. I think it was chemistry. I remember I walked in because the bus was a little bit late, and like people were just looking at me, and I was like, oh, well, here we go again. So like I just go to the back, and like I physically remember people looking at me like, who is this kid? Because I guess I never went to the Lawrence schools. And so
Right.
high school was a little bit rough. I was really, at that point, I was so like just shy and closed off.
Well, to
Kind
protect
of immune.
yourself,
I was
right?
kind of immune to it. So I'm like, I would see, people looking at
Yeah.
me. Like it was weird. Like towards the end of high school, my personality came, people were a little bit, it wasn't as bad. So like I kind of started like broke out my shell a little bit, but like it still took me a while because I was just like, I don't know what people are looking at me and like trying to make friends, trying to like fit in. It was just like an awkward phase, but eventually I did get through it though. But I hated high school though. I was just like, I got to get out of here. Like this is just,
That's a shame.
and I think it just comes from the constant over the years. Like I just got really like immune to certain stuff. Like I could just tell like I would kind of have like a bad attitude in a sense because I would like my mom would she be trying to like, hey, let's go get you some new clothes. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Or hey, why don't you go get a haircut? I don't want one. I'm like, she would try, but I was just like,
that was her bandwidth. I mean, she was trying to help, but
the wall was just up.
In many instances where, I'm doing an intervention and the teachers are clueless and the administration is clueless and the counselor's not there. Sometimes we recommend kids move to a new school, just start a new school. And then there are lawyers now for bullying prevention. So put the fear of God in the administration if they're not taking it seriously. There are good schools and there are not so great schools. There are schools with resources and not. And some of these schools comes from the top down. Principal gets it, does a good job. And obviously, all of your administrators of schools were checked out. And it's just sad to see this sustained bullying and then that you moved around. It really didn't solve it. And your mother did what she could, and you told her what was going on, but more needed to be done. Yeah,
I mean, it was just, it's tough. I mean, my mom definitely tried. And I think, my mom, my grandparents, they really kept me afloat. Like, there were some days I never had really dark days, like nothing like suicidal or like anything like that. But like if I didn't have that from my mom, my grandparents, like I don't know what I don't know what I would have done because it got real bad at some point. So
I'm sure.
Now them like they really kept me afloat and kept me going because without them, it was rough.
Did you have a couple of friends in middle school or high school? I mean, if you have just one or two friends, it usually gets you through the.
It's interesting. Like now as I'm older, I have so many friends, and it's interesting looking back. Like I had a couple friends, but not as many. But I think what helped me was like once I got out my shell, I realized like what great personality I have, and now like I have a lot of friends now, and I feel people. I guess people that get bullied, they really do have personality. They do have stuff to offer. It's just they're just stuck. They're stuck, and they want to be this brave person and, they want to reach out, they want to talk, but it's hard, when you've gone through it for X amount of years. And
yeah. Yeah, I think Greg and I would concur. You have a great personality. I think you're going to do some great things and help people too. So that's a silver lining that, instead of dark thoughts, it's like, I don't want you to go through what I went through. And clearly we need to do a better job.
May I ask, AJ, because you were sort of growing up into school at sort of the dawn of the social media age. Was social media a part of that assault on your feelings?
Not too much. I think when I got to high school, Facebook was just starting up. So you had a Facebook and stuff. And to an extent, yeah, I mean, I feel like in high school, I always wanted to be really, really popular. Because I felt like I wanted to be cool. Like, if I was popular, all this would go away and all this would stop. Because I was looking at the popular kids, they had so many friends and, they were just living the life in high school, through my eyes. So I'm like, well, if I could ever be popular, maybe this will go away. But, that didn't really happen. But, it's just something where I thought about, I was like, wow, like, I want to be like them when I'm older. I really want to be popular. I want people to like me. The stage I was at, it was tough. So social media did have an extent. I think it was the wanting to be somebody else, seeing their profile. Maybe they're putting up pictures, they're getting all these likes and getting invited to all these parties and stuff. And, I wasn't. But so I would definitely say social media played a little part of that in high school. Now, though, it's social media. It's bad now. I mean, I don't know what, like in middle school, high school with like Twitter and cyberbullying, like it's really bad now. I just, I kind of thankfully it wasn't there when I was younger. Honestly, like I'm glad it wasn't there when.
Greg, thank you for that question. Very insightful because with social media, the bullying, you know, might have stopped with you, AJ, you leave the school, but now for kids it's 24/7, and kids can be more vicious, you know, with cyberbullying and hide. So, I mean, kids can kill themselves. So it gets really, really bad because, you know, it's 24/7 and they don't get a break. So there's a lot of things we can do about that, and part of this is teaching kids younger. So the system being broken, that not all kids will go to their parents, that kids in the center will say to us, I went to an adult and they did nothing. Like, how do you answer that? So when we say at Kidsbridge, you go to another adult, you know, until you find an adult. Or I went to an adult and they made it worse. So there's just, again, so much we could do. First, to start earlier for people listening, if bias and bullying start at 3, like, why are we doing like a program in middle school? We really have to start when kids are 5, 6, 7, excuse me, and role model respect and kindness. And so my passion is empathy, because if we can walk in the shoes of you being bullied, AJ, which we should when you're 5, and then solve the problem, and then like you're done with that. But we really need to invest in our children and the bullying prevention systems, which we don't do, right? So that teachers are trained and counselors are trained, and teachers are working so hard and they're stretched so thin, they don't have the resources they need, right, to solve the problem and do it right. New Jersey has one of the best anti-bullying laws in the country, bullying prevention. It's called HIB, harassment, intimidation, and bias. And schools are supposed to not only do the paperwork, which is voluminous, but to remedy the solution. So, you know, just bullying in general, against religions, all the religions that we have, all the different ethnic identities that we have. Maybe, AJ, you didn't have the right shoes, right? Or the right haircut, or the right skin color, or the right whatever. So kids looking for differences. And where are they learning this? To Greg's point, they're learning it on television, they're learning it on the internet, they're learning it on social media. Another thing that I've learned from the research is kids have 2 identities. And this is something that you spoke to. There's identity in real life, talking to people, and there's an altogether different identity online where you have to be cool and have so many friends and so many boyfriends and girlfriends and whatever friends, and that you're wearing the right clothes, right? So they have to create this false fake identity. So for anybody who doesn't fall in line, kids can be really, really mean, which brings us back to education earlier, that we can model respect and kindness, invest in the teachers. Teachers need more support. They're stretched really thin, administrators, and then not only report, but fix the system. So let me just dive into this quickly. We are a society of bystanders. Most of us are bystanders. We don't do anything. We're afraid. We don't know how. So you had friends who saw you were being bullied, and most of them did nothing. They were afraid. They didn't know how. But what if we trained your friends how to report, how to be a friend to you, call you that night and just listen to you? What if we trained your friends to the power of many, 3 or 4 kids, and they invite you to a party or basketball game? What if we better train teachers just to speak to you after class and know somebody's rooting for you? But we're afraid, we don't know, and we're not practiced. So that this is what I'm really about with Kidsbridge. Like, kids need to know what to do, strategies that are evidence-based, which means they work, and have kids practice so that when they, you know, see the next AJ at 5, 6, 7, the kids are trained to act. Not in middle school, first grades, right? First grade, you started, second grade, third grade. We have so much more to do. So with, again, resources stretched thin, I'm saying to New Jersey, you need to invest more money into bullying prevention with the best HIB law in the land, but it's not funded or resourced. And you know, teachers are heroes, especially after COVID, right? So I'm not pointing to the teachers, but it really, again, comes down from the top, from the principal. This is important to me. I'm going to protect every child. I mean, you could have gone to a counselor, but maybe there wasn't a counselor there for you, the principal, the lunch lady, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a system, And in all the schools you went to, sadly, it was broken. Your mom did as much as she could. You guys want to comment on that at all, systems?
But, I would never tell anyone. That would be the hardest, I would think.
You mean like a parent or anyone?
Yeah, or anyone really, but
Yeah.
certainly not a parent.
Right.
Like I might tell another kid just to make sure that we both agreed that the guy bullying me is a jerk.
Right.
But
so I wouldn't tell my parents either.
No,
so here's something that won't surprise you. And we do this in the Kidsbridge Center. Kids are afraid to ask for help. Adults are afraid to ask for help.
Mhm.
We practice pair share where two kids are face to face, right? Face to face. An amazing concept.
Okay.
And they practice asking for help and they feel so awkward and they don't know to do it. So if a first grader or a second or third grader can't even ask for help, we have some work to do. Right? I mean, it's not just your parents. Maybe there was a teacher that you liked at school, Greg, or in a sports club, a referee or a coach or whatever the many things you did in your life. So it doesn't have to be the parents or the guard. I mean, look at these foster kids. Who do they have to talk to? Right? To underscore your point.
Actually, the interesting thing about youth in foster care is that they are, Robin, you might want to turn your video camera off. The youth in foster care.
Yeah.
What were we going with that?
Well, the kids in foster care have no one.
Oh, right. Here's the weird thing. They are trained from the time they are young that everything's on their shoulders, that no one's going to help them. You're alone in this world. If you're going to do anything, you're going to do it yourself. And that's drilled into their heads. And then when the time that I get to see them 16, 17, 18 years old, they're not ready to accept help and guidance because they feel deficient if they have to accept help and guidance. I should have known that myself.
Well, that's like, isn't that a man up kind of attitude, an old fashioned man up? I mean, I remember one guy, he was talking about empathy and bullying at a lecture, and this guy ambled up to me. He said, I'm glad I was bullied when I was young. It made me the man I am today. And I said, well, okay, that worked for you, but some kids like harm themselves or drop out of school. I mean, truancy is a big problem with bullying, right? Yeah. So it worked for him, but it doesn't work for most kids.
Oh no, and I can't stand it when a person who was the bullier will look at a person that they bullied 20 years later and go, how about that? If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be the man you are today.
Or they might apologize, which is lame. Like 20 years and like, oh, I did the wrong thing. I mean, maybe it's sincere. I don't know. Well, but how do you...
See, is that intergenerational? Is the person who's doing the bullying something that they're picking up at home?
Well, they could pick it up in the classroom with the wrong teacher. I think adults don't realize that kids are watching them very closely. I don't know, AJ, maybe you want to share. You might have a bad example of an adult seeing the bullying and like, why don't you act? Is there anything you want to share with that you see adults, especially on the playground?
Yeah, I think some teachers just either they don't care or they don't want to intervene,
or they don't know what to do.
Or they don't know what to do. And and from a child or even middle school perspective, you don't want to sometimes even tell the teacher, or you don't want to tell an adult because you, like I said, you don't want to be the snitch or the tattletale. And then they start telling, oh, look what AJ does. He runs off and tells the teacher. Then they might talk about you more. So it's kind of like it could be somewhat of a lose-lose situation. If the institution or school, they don't have the resources or they don't have anybody to talk to. It can kind of be a lose-lose, which is kind of why I want to get into life coaching because specifically for me, I didn't really have that older brother or sister to even talk to. I was an only child. So
that would have been helpful, probably.
I didn't really have anybody to really defend me or talk to. And, I just picture, if I could kind of be like that guardian angel or just that friend that, a client or a perspective someone could talk to kind of help them get through that in a safe space. Like I want to provide that for people. And so that's kind of why I got into life coaching, because it's specifically that.
I think you'll be great. You have a lot of empathy.
Talk about that. Talk about that life coaching thing now. What were we talking about the other day? Positive psychology or something? What were you saying?
Yes. So my coaching certification is in positive psychology. And for positive psychology, for those that don't know, is the scientific study of what makes life most worth living. And I specifically picked that because when you are somebody, who has been bullied, you have really low self-esteem and low self-confidence, and you're not really living. You're just kind of just going through the days, just like, all right, I made it through today, or I got through this week. You're not really looking at, what makes you happy. What do you want to do? What do you want to pursue? You're really just so focused on really not living at all. And so like that really, worked with me and spoke with me, because like, I remember when I was in middle school and high school, I didn't really know what I was doing or like what was worth living. I didn't really even think about it. I'm just like, okay, I was on autopilot, wake up, eat breakfast, go to school.
Survive.
Yeah, survive. I'm just trying to survive every day instead of like looking at, like, what do I like to do? Or like, what am I passionate about? What do I want to pursue? And so I got my certification in positive psychology for that reason, because I thought that was really important.
I mean, think about this, Greg. He could be a really angry, angry, disconnected, revengeful young man. Look how he's turned his life around. I mean, it's really something.
I think it's absolutely remarkable. And I meet a lot of people who can't like do that. The trauma that they've suffered is like so intense. That it disrupts their quality of life. They don't sleep at night. How was your sleeping when you were going through this, when you were in middle school? Did you sleep at night or?
It was good. I had a safe home and a safe space, so I did sleep.
Thank God.
That was something I did do. I did go to sleep, which was nice. So I did have a safe space, which
thank God.
I'm really thankful for.
And of course your level of achievement is probably beyond a lot of the folks who bullied you back in the day. I think it's okay to be just a little smug about that,
Yeah, I try to, be as humble as I can be. I'm definitely thankful, for my, being able to pursue, college and, my master's and stuff.
Yeah.
And, I think getting this, it does require a lot of empathy because.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to go back to something you said, because my husband and I discussed this, that research on the football players and the cheerleaders who are in the top cliques and so popular, after high school's over, they don't do so well. So good for you.
Now, see, when I was growing up, first of all, we took a lot of heat for our noses. If you want to know the truth, it was the nose that was the giveaway. And the irony of that is that, all the geeks with the noses were studying computers back then. And
stereotype. Warning.
A lot of those guys ended up making some pretty serious fortunes.
Good point.
Because they were just geeks who learned how to program and and things, and they had the last laugh. So dude, what happens when you get the invitation to the reunion?
Funny. So my high school reunion was 2021. And when I graduated high school, and people did come up to me, they were like, wow, like I saw, you went to school, you got your master's, like you moved out of town. It did make me feel good. Because, there were some people that kind of didn't really do too much after. But I did feel good about myself. I could have just been, I could have lashed out and, said some inappropriate stuff. But I realized that, I think life's just bigger than that. And, you have to forgive and forget. And, people did come and they were like, wow, you really made it. And I remember one specific person who picked on me. Like, he was like, he did apologize. He was like, wow, like, I just want to apologize. I was really mean to you in high school. I see you're really, you're really killing it right now. So that was a nice, and we just had a nice conversation. And so
that is nice.
It was nice to, get to the other side and, realize, that life gets better. It's hard though. Sometimes you don't think it does, but it gets better. And
yeah, and you don't know what this kid had at home either. So here's another saying for you: success is the best revenge.
it is. Yeah, that's true.
Success, sweet success, and you're really on a path now.
Now, do you feel like if back in that time, if you just had sort of somebody that you could have talked to, would that have made a difference for you?
I think if I had somebody that I could talk to and then kind of help guide me, okay, like what can I do to make myself feel better or make myself feel better about myself? Or I think that the two of those combined. So yeah, I could like having somebody to talk to, I think would have been great. But if they kind of weren't offering me solutions, it kind of just would have been like, I'm still back at square one. But I'm glad I had the chance to talk to you though. But I do think it would have helped tremendously though. It would have helped.
Yeah, your point of view is always how can you find sort of an inner joy. When you're looking for solutions, you don't say, "Hey, what should I have said in that situation to make that bully shrink down?" And because there doesn't ever seem to be an answer for that, does there?
I don't think there's really an answer. And I mean, you could at the route, well, you can quote unquote fight your bully, quote unquote, but what if you don't have the confidence to want to fight them? Or what if you fight them and you lose? Then that's like a whole nother dynamic because then he's going to tell everybody, oh, I beat him up. And it's just another like your
That's a lot of pressure.
Your self-esteem is down again. Now you might be really, really angry and it can like go to an extreme. So I think another reason why life coach I got into that was to kind of help clients. Okay, like you've been going through this now, but let's kind of stop this today and let's try to change your mindset and what we can do, moving forward, change your mindset and help you become the person you want to be, make you feel more confident about yourself. And so that's the reason why.
How does positive psychology fit into that?
So I would say positive psychology fits in because it allows for the person to really take a step back and kind of reflect for maybe the first time ever they ever sat back, like, what do I enjoy doing or what do I like to do? For example, if you're being bullied, you probably don't like your life as is, or you don't think highly of it. So what do I like to do? Do I like playing soccer? And if so, that brings me joy. Well, why don't I try out for a soccer team? Or why don't I do like an intramural team or something like that, doing something I enjoy? Because that kind of helps you get through that. Like if you have something you enjoy doing, like say, for instance, I might be really good at soccer, but like I don't have the confidence to try out because I think that, they're going to make fun of me or I might not make the team, but I know I'm skilled at it. And then I make that team. Well, I'm going to have friends now. These are my teammates. Sports tends to bond people. And if you're really good at that sport or you're like decent at it, you'll make friends. Like you may have soccer friends in your classes at the lunch table. You have practice after school. You have games. And so like it kind of like just changes the mindset. And it just takes something so small like that to like change somebody's perspective of life. It's really small. It could be just making a soccer team and making friends. And those are your friends throughout high school. And I think for people with confidence, for me, it just takes something really small that can just launch them to help them feel more confident and to like help them, pursue through high school and get through it and make friends and kind of start enjoying their life a little bit.
It's interesting how the tie-in that you make between like getting bullied, we expect a person feels bad at the moment that they're humiliated and they feel bad, but you're making the tie-in that there's a much deeper wound to a person's self-esteem, and that wound they carry around with them past the acute humiliation of the moment.
Yeah, it's bad. Like, I mean, it goes, even for me, like I can just say like I said, I wasn't confident how I dressed. Like, say I found like a woman who was in high school attractive. I couldn't go up and talk to them. I'd be embarrassed about that. It just affected me a lot of just different ways, like thinking back at it just in so many ways. Even when I would play sports, I wasn't really confident in that. Like I kind of just go through it, just like I'm going through life. Like I might run track and I'm just going through it. Like I'm like not really trying myself to like get better because I don't have the confidence to do that. And so that confidence, like it really affects you. And then you kind of have to retrain your mind to get more confidence again. Because I think confidence is a skill. And sometimes you have to retrain your mind to do that or retrain yourself to get confidence, which takes time as well. So like you were saying, the bullying is something, it's a lot deeper than people think. And I think especially verbal bullying, because like words are powerful and people remember what you say. People remember that. Like I'm sure we all remember, like if somebody rude said something to us, you'll remember when it was, what year, at the location. And so it all intertwines together.
Yeah, that's a good point you're making, that verbal abuse is emotional abuse, and it's not like fighting in the playground, but it's just as searing and maybe longer lasting because, you know, when it happens, you're powerless and you don't know how to respond. Like you figure out a great answer 24 hours later. So I just want to explain to your viewers that bullying is a relationship. So you would have a relationship with the bully, not that you'd want to. It's a relationship defined by power. This other person has more power over you, which unfortunately the victim gives them. And then it's a relationship over time. So people, it's not, I want people to understand name calling is like, you know, in kindergarten or any grade, just calling somebody a name one day. But if it's persistent and it continues, it's labeled as bullying. I don't know if you had bias incidents against you, but as you guys know, bias is really climbing these days, coming from the country that we live in. So it's filtering down from the top. And I think kids are repeating what they hear and see on social media and what they hear in their homes. And so research is that negative things fester and get people's attention. So people are naturally doing this to, you know, get more followers or get more attention or to hurt more kids. And, you know, being popular can be like the most important thing. So we really have to work on teaching kids, you know, about social media.
Absolutely. So, AJ, now where are the clients going to come from for the life coaching component in your life? Well, I know you have a day job now, but you're trying to transition into helping people with the life coaching component. So, are you trolling the streets looking for kids?
Yeah. So what I do now is, so like, you know, I have my website, which is ajsababu.com. So, you know, if clients happen to find me, you know, they can register on my website. I am on social media. So Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, kind of like promoting myself as a life coach. You know, eventually what I would like to start doing is to try to start getting into schools, maybe doing like some public speaking in like middle schools, high schools, even colleges. Just to bring awareness about, you know, bullying and, you know, self-confidence, and hoping to be able to, you know, empower students, encourage students as well. So that's kind of where I'm at right now as far as like clients wanting to find me or promoting myself out there to be a life coach where people can find me. I also do blogging as well. So if you go on my website, I blog about a lot of the things I talk about as well. And I have like a newsletter that I do once a month to send out to subscribers. So really just putting myself out there as best as I can, and, you know, praying and hoping that, you know, whoever needs my assistance, you know, I can help and make that work. And so that's kind of where you could find me right now.
You have to figure that some of the people, especially if they're young people who are contacting you through your website, are going to be in crisis themselves. At the moment, right? So what advice do you give to someone who comes out of the blue to your website? You don't know who they are, and it could just be the FBI trying to find out what kind of advice you're giving to children, right? It could just easily be you know, someone from law enforcement trying to find out what you do. But what advice do you give, AJ? You know, it's my nose. I'm telling you, people are bullying me because of my nose. All right.
But you can't change.
And I can't change my nose.
Yeah. I think the biggest advice I would give clients or anybody who reached out to me was not to don't take things personal. That is a lifelong principle that I have learned to adopt over the last couple of years. And it has helped me tremendously. And what I mean by don't take things personal is that somebody might be bullying you and they might be going through something at home and they just have to lash out on you. Like it's kind of just a way to take it out on you. Some people are going through their own situations, their own problems. They might think that way. It might not even be true. So you don't have to take it so personal. Or just because they're saying this, it means that this is, 100% correct or the truth. And so not taking things personally, it's a mindset that takes time. But I think the more you can practice to not take things so personal, and this is for anything in life, this could be with a boss, a coworker, a neighbor, anything. If you learn to not take things personal, especially at a younger age, and try to like shift your mindset a little bit, I think that will help anyone, clients, students, a long way. But it does take time, especially because bullying tends to keep happening. It's not just going to stop right away, but you kind of just have to train your mind to think a little bit differently and not to feed so much into it. Because I think when you're going back and forth, like so you're bullying somebody and you're kind of going back and forth with them and you're kind of giving them that energy, that kind of makes it want to do it more. But if you're just like, they might simply be like, oh, okay, that's nice. Or you kind of get very like one word answers, not a lot of energy. They'll be like, oh, well, I say this to him, but it doesn't really bother him. So then they kind of look stupid in a sense. So
is that do you get that in other statistics, Lynn, that the more aggressively you respond, the more that feeds the bully?
You mean if you respond aggressively, that works?
Yeah, that actually feeds the bully. That
not good, not good. Yeah. So what happens most commonly is a bully and a victim will, like you see dragging by the ears, they'll be dragged to the principal's office, and the target gets punished with the person who is bullying. So that is not a good strategy. But I have some tips and strategies for the people listening that I want to share. And AJ really touched on this. What he calls positive psychology, I label self-empathy. So like he said, something self-compassion, self-empathy, that you treat yourself to nice things, that you look something forward to a meal or something at the end of the day, to find one trusted friend if you can, find those trusted adults, which might be harder to find. Sitting on a lot of anger and disappointment, a child can journal, a child can do art, a child can wean him or herself off of social media, right? So if you're turning on the computer after school and you're getting hit and you see other kids being hit, of course, you shouldn't spread that on. You should walk in the shoes of somebody who's called it this or that, and the next day 1,000 kids are looking at them. So we want kids who are bullied to be a role model and a good citizen also. So the other thing which I mentioned before is that you feel so alone. So AJ felt like he was the only person being bullied, and in fact there are millions. So there's power in conversations, but there's power in books. Read books about kids being bullied. Read where a kid is being bullied or mean, saves the day or becomes, there's so many books like this today. So books can be on the line to go to positive places that make you feel better. But sadly, AJ is in very good company. And again, I said broken systems, there's so much more you can do. But whether it's called positive psychology, self-empathy, self-compassion, you can practice and become better at it, treating yourself like a human being who deserves to be respected.
Absolutely. I think that's totally in line with AJ's message as well.
Yeah. And if I could just mention, I have a chapter in my book on bullying prevention, because it's about, it's not only empathy for victims like AJ, but we've got to figure out a way to get a person who bullies to walk in the shoes of the people he or she is harming, and to see that effect, like the kid in my center, right? I didn't realize I was. So we have to use empathy to steer them to more positive ways to get attention and to be popular. And it takes some strategy and focus to do that.
Certainly, yeah. To try to get the bully to understand what the other person's feeling.
Empathy, empathy, empathy.
Fascinating. All right. So where can people go to find your book, Lynn?
Oh, well, thank you for asking.
Let's
So
sell
my
some
book, first I say independent booksellers. The book is called The Empathy Advantage, Coaching Children to Be Kind, Respectful and Successful. So independent booksellers, try that first, Barnes & Noble, and least Amazon. I'm not an Amazon fan. I think we need to support local businesses, but you can find it on Amazon.
Excellent, excellent. And AJ, once again, your website?
My website's going to be ajsababu.com. So AJ, and then my last name, S-A-B as in boy, A, B as in boy, U.com.
ajsababu.com. Go there, everybody. Go to Lynn's and find her book, The Empathy Advantage, and take a look at AJ's website when it's up and running. And well, I guess it starts, kind of one at a time, spreading the word, huh?
Spreading the word, more resources to train parents, right? We need to train parents what to do because a lot of parents don't know what to do. To train administrators, schools, coaches. I mean, really everybody.
The people who impact.
People, just adults.
That's right. All the people who impact.
And high schoolers can be better mentors to middle schoolers to elementary. I mean, there's so many ways to fix a system that's broken.
Well, that's sadly all the time we have for tonight. Now, we're going to miss you all next week because it's Memorial Day weekend. So have a safe holiday, please, everyone. And let's make a date to meet right back here 2 weeks from now. I'm actually kind of excited. Sean McFadden is the executive director of a wonderful organization in this area called Urban Promise. And I've been actually trying to get Urban Promise on the show for a long time, and he's relatively new, so I guess they didn't come because they were going through personnel changes. But now we have them, and they are really, it's amazing what they do. If you're thinking about starting an organization yourself or participating in something that already exists, the Urban Promise model is definitely, certainly something to be admired. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Until then, thanks to my guests, thanks to Ruben for engineering, thanks to Robin for producing. Music provided by Mozart. We're so lucky to have him. He must need the money. Join me in 2 weeks. Stay safe. And until then, let's make this the best 2 weeks ever. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good luck, AJ.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
AJ, the transmission ends abruptly, so don't feel like you're being punished.